Election Security, the Hanging Chads of the 21st Century. I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me is Sami Saydjari, President at Cyber Defense Agency, Incorporated. Welcome, Sami.
Thank you.
What does Cyber Defense Agency, Inc. do?
We do strategic consulting to mostly the national security community, people like the Homeland Security and the intelligence community, Defense Department, to help them understand the nature of the risk to their systems and architecturally how to solve those risks, how to address them.
You and I have talked about election security, and that's big news right now. Election security and vote hacking have been a hot topic, in fact, since the days of the hanging chads. How serious is the threat of election hacking today?
Election hacking is very serious in my view. In particular, the voting machines themselves are very hackable if somebody gets close-in access, meaning they have the ability to physically hook up to those machines because they're really not designed to defend themselves against that kind of an attack. And the machines are not that well supervised at every possible voting site. So any given single machine is vulnerable to being attacked. But you would have to attack a large number of machines in order to swing an outcome, except an extremely close election, in which case you could swing an outcome. So the machines themselves are quite hackable individually. And in aggregate, it would require a fairly orchestrated attack to get close in to a large number of machines, but it is theoretically possible.
A great number of voting machines operate on proprietary software and operating systems. How does one audit or test these devices to make sure that they've been compromised?
That's a huge problem, and because they're not always cooperating with an independent audit because they're concerned about the proprietary nature of their software. And so the only real way to handle that is to have a trusted third party do the audit and sort of agree to non-disclosure of the details of the proprietary system, but stand up and say this system is in fact secure against certain kinds of attacks. But the key thing there is to have a third party that is capable of what I would consider a nation state class attack, a very serious attack with people with very serious skills.
What are the advantages and disadvantages, if you will, of all 50 states using standardized voting and counting equipment compared to all 50 different sets of machines and technologies?
Yeah, so it's a great question and a very interesting trade-off. If they all use the same one, then we can invest one time in making sure that these machines are highly secure. And so one investment, so all the states could pool their money, the federal government could pool some money in, and we can make sure that these systems are highly secure against attack. And then we could make sure that if we find attacks, we upgrade them all at the same time, kind of like we do with operating systems. The downside of that is if somebody finds an attack and nobody knows about it, they could have a very widespread effect on that one machine. So you end up what's called a monoculture. And so there's strength in diversity. And so maybe we don't want to go to one, maybe we want to go to 3 or 4, but 50 or 60 may add to the vulnerability because there's sort of these dark corners of highly proprietary systems that are not well audited, not well understood, not well analyzed.
What about voters with disabilities? What are the appropriate accommodations we must consider while maintaining vote privacy and security?
Well, so I think one of the things that has to stay with us is the ability to do paper ballots. And paper ballots, you have the ability for people with disabilities or people who just don't want to use a computer. And I think that should stay with us because that gives us a degree of security against the machine being hacked directly, at least. There are indirect attacks associated with the counting of those votes and the relaying of those counting of those votes that we should be concerned with. But having paper ballots gives us some insulation for those kind of exceptional cases.
So then is a hard copy machine readable document that a voter is responsible for verifying the ultimate answer to vote security?
I think it's an important answer. I don't know that it's the only answer, but it's an important answer, particularly to be able to audit an election after the fact. And so when there's some question that comes up, recounting electronic votes can be hacked, and so you could recount them and it looks the same, but in fact it wasn't. Somebody changed the original and the audit version. So I think we have to have some way of having audit records that are unchangeable, and paper is very, very difficult to change.
To what degree does voter patience waiting for election results play in determining what technology is considered?
I think it's important in the sense of electronic voting gives us a sort of what click joy, right? I mean, it's a sort of an immediate response to what's happened, right? We all want immediate response. And so electronic voting is helpful that way, but with that speed comes a vulnerability of hackability of the electronic. So we all want to be able to like click on our laptop and vote for president and 5 minutes later see who's president. That would be awesome. But we don't necessarily want that right now because our ability to secure that infrastructure is not there. And so I think we have to be a little patient with a process that is accountable, recountable, and auditable, and in the end that we can rely on. It's really about the assurance that we have and the outcome.
Okay, Sami, to what extent is election security a political issue rather than a technology issue?
Well, any issue can be made into a political issue, but to me, this is a technical sociological issue first, and a political issue second, because people can choose to politicize an issue. So somebody can say, you know, the issue that the election was stolen or it wasn't stolen in 2016, and therefore one party or another party should be more or less concerned about it. And to me, this is an absurdity. To me, we look at inherently and objectively, is the system hackable or isn't it? We want to have confidence in our election outcomes. You know, people in one party certainly want their party to win, but not at the price of people undermining their trust in the democratic system, which we know our adversaries are trying to accomplish. So they want us to not trust our own system. So it's really on us to find ways to make sure we have high assurance in the outcome, whatever the outcome is. You know, let the best person win. And so we want to make sure that the person that wins is the person that we actually wanted to elect, and not somebody that our adversaries wanted us to elect for some reason.
If you were able to build the ideal voting and counting system, what would it look like?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that it would probably be a handful of different kinds of systems, like as we talked about earlier, 2 or 3 different systems built by 2 or 3 different companies who really started with a specification, a set of requirements for security against really serious attackers and people who really understood how attacks happen. You know, so there are sort of professionals who sort of know a little bit about security, and then there's the professionals who have actually attacked systems and they really know how systems can be attacked. So if you start from scratch with a set of requirements from a security perspective, then you design the architecture so that it's highly resistant to attack. And then you have a monitoring system in place to detect if an attack happens and flags it before it can alter the outcome. To me, that would be an ideal system design. I would throw out whatever we have right now, start again from scratch.
There you go. Sami Saydjari, president at Cyber Defense Agency, Inc. If somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want to ask you some questions about election security, how can they do that?
Many different ways. I'm on LinkedIn, Sami Saydjari on Twitter as well, and samisaydjari.com. My book, engineeringtrustworthysystems.com, is also a site that you can get a hold of me. So any one of those 4 sites would be great.
There you go. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here or go to tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.